Welcome to Understand Your Mind. There are things about you that you should never tell anyone. Not because they are wrong. Not because they are shameful. Not because you have something to hide. But because not everyone knows how to take care of what you share. We live in a world that constantly pushes us to speak, to explain ourselves, to justify who we are, how we feel, and why we make certain choices. Silence is often seen as weakness, as avoidance, as emotional distance. But psychology teaches us something very different. Silence, when chosen consciously, can be one of the most powerful forms of emotional self-protection. Today, I want to talk to you about 7 things about yourself that you shouldn't tell anyone. Not from fear, not from distrust, but from self-respect. If you've ever opened up, only to later feel exposed, misunderstood, or regretful, this video is for you. Take a breath, and let's begin. Before we go any further, I want to make something very clear. This is not about becoming closed off. It's not about shutting people out. And it's not about pretending you don't feel pain. This is about discernment. About learning that vulnerability is not about saying everything. It's about knowing when, how, and with whom to speak. Because not everyone who listens knows how to hold what they hear. Some people listen to respond. Some listen to compare. Some listen to judge. And some listen simply out of curiosity. And when we share deeply personal parts of ourselves with the wrong audience, we don't feel relieved. We feel smaller. Talking doesn't always heal. Sometimes it only exposes. Learning when to stay silent doesn't make you cold. It makes you emotionally intelligent. Our insecurities are not random thoughts. They are emotional imprints. They are formed in moments where we felt rejected, unseen, or not enough. Sometimes they come from childhood. Sometimes from relationships. Sometimes from a single sentence that stayed with us longer than it should have. Over time, these insecurities become internal narratives. Stories we tell ourselves quietly. I'm not good enough. I'm too much. I'm not lovable. I'll be abandoned. And when you share these insecurities with just anyone, you're not sharing information. You're handing someone the most sensitive map of your inner world. The problem is that not everyone knows how to handle fragility. Some people respond by minimizing it. They tell you you're overthinking. They tell you it's not a big deal. They tell you to just be positive. And even if their intention isn't harmful, the impact is invalidation. Other people, often without realizing it, begin to use that insecurity as a reference point. They speak to you from above. They position themselves as stronger, more confident, more capable. And slowly, you feel exposed. That's why sharing your insecurities doesn't always free you. Sometimes it reinforces them. Your insecurities deserve care, not commentary. They should only be shared with people who have shown emotional safety, empathy, and respect. Not everyone earns access to your vulnerability. Dreams are delicate. They begin quietly, often before you even fully understand them yourself. They are fragile in their early stages, like seeds beneath the soil. When you talk about a goal too early, your brain experiences a subtle psychological reward. Social acknowledgement gives you a sense of progress before any real action has happened. This can be comforting, but it can also be misleading. You feel accomplished without having moved forward, and then come the opinions. People rarely respond to your dreams from your perspective. They respond from their own limitations, fears, and disappointments. They ask, what if it doesn't work? Is that realistic? Why risk so much? And suddenly a dream that once felt exciting starts to feel heavy. Doubt creeps in, not because the dream changed, but because too many voices entered too soon. Some goals need privacy, not secrecy, but protection. There is a time to speak and a time to work in silence. First action, then explanation. Talking about mistakes can be healing when done in the right space, but deeply personal mistakes, shared with the wrong people, can become permanent labels. Even if you've grown, even if you've changed, even if you've taken responsibility, some people freeze you in your worst moment. They remember the version of you that struggled, not the one who learned, and that can be deeply painful. Because you move forward, but their perception stays behind. Not every mistake needs to be explained publicly. Not every lesson needs an audience. Growth doesn't require constant confession. Sometimes the most honest thing you can do is live differently. Forgiving yourself matters more than being understood by everyone else. Your past is not a headline. It's a complex story. It holds context, survival, choices made with limited information, and emotions that others never lived. When you share deeply personal details of your past too quickly, especially with people who lack emotional maturity, your story can be reduced to a label. People may judge your actions without understanding your circumstances. They may define you by who you were, not by who you are becoming. You don't owe anyone a full explanation of your history. Your story belongs to you. It should be shared slowly, with people who have earned your trust, who can hold nuance, and who see your growth, not just your wounds. Talking about mental and emotional health is important. But not every space is safe for that conversation. Many people don't know how to listen without fixing, without minimizing, without comparing your pain to someone else's. You say you're struggling, and they respond with solutions you didn't ask for. Or they tell you it could be worse. Or they change the subject because your vulnerability makes them uncomfortable. Sometimes opening up in the wrong place does more harm than silence. It doesn't mean you shouldn't talk. It means you deserve the right container. Your emotional health requires respect, not judgment, not quick answers. Choosing carefully who you open up to is part of healing. Betrayal cuts deeply because it breaks trust. When you talk about betrayal, you're not just sharing what happened. You're exposing the part of you that believed. And some people listen with curiosity, not compassion. They turn your pain into a story, into entertainment, into gossip. That doesn't heal you. And repeating a betrayal over and over keeps your nervous system trapped in the same moment. Sometimes speaking once helps, but repeating the wound without safety prevents it from closing. Here, silence is not avoidance. It is rest. It is a boundary. It is self-respect. There are thoughts, decisions, and inner processes that are still forming. And what is forming is fragile. You are not obligated to explain everything you're becoming. You don't owe anyone access to your internal evolution. Some things need time. They need space. They need quiet. Keeping certain things to yourself doesn't make you dishonest. It makes you autonomous. Not everything must be shared to be real. Not everything must be spoken to be valid. Sometimes silence is wisdom. There is something important we haven't said yet. Most people don't overshare because they are careless. They overshare because they are seeking relief. When something hurts inside, the natural impulse is to speak, to release the pressure, to feel lighter. And in the moment, talking can feel like relief. But relief is not the same as healing. Relief is immediate. Healing is slow. And when we confuse one for the other, we often give away parts of ourselves before we are ready to. Many people grow up believing that being open means being honest, that silence means hiding, that keeping things to yourself means you're doing something wrong. But emotional maturity teaches us something different. Honesty is not about telling everything. Honesty is about being true to yourself. And sometimes being true to yourself means saying less. Because when you speak too quickly, before you've understood your own emotions, you're not sharing clarity. You're sharing confusion. And confusion, once it leaves your mouth, doesn't always come back gently. It comes back as opinions, as judgments, as advice you didn't ask for. And slowly, your inner world becomes crowded. You stop hearing your own voice because too many others are speaking inside your head. This is why silence is not emptiness. Silence is space. Space to understand what you feel. Space to name it without pressure. Space to decide whether it truly needs to be shared. Another reason we overshare is because we want to feel seen. We want someone to say, "That makes sense. I understand. You're not wrong for feeling this way." That need is deeply human. But when we seek that validation everywhere, we often end up feeling more invisible, not less. Because not everyone knows how to see you clearly. Some people see you through their own wounds, some through their fears, some through their ego. And when that happens, you start adjusting yourself to be understood. You explain more. You justify more. You soften your truth, so it's easier to digest. Until one day, you don't recognize your own voice anymore. Learning what not to share is not about hiding your truth. It's about protecting it. It's about letting your experiences settle inside you before they become words. Because when something has settled, it no longer needs defense. It no longer needs explanation. It simply is. There is also power in mystery. Not the kind that manipulates, but the kind that respects your inner process. When you don't explain everything, you give yourself permission to change. You give yourself room to evolve without having to update everyone around you. And that is freedom. Freedom from being defined too early. Freedom from being misunderstood. Freedom from carrying other people's interpretations of your life. This is especially important during transitions, when you are becoming someone new, when you are letting go of old identities, when you are questioning things you once believed. Those moments are sacred. They don't need commentary. They need gentleness. Silence in those moments is not isolation. It is incubation. And when the time comes to speak, you'll feel it. You won't feel rushed. You won't feel the need to convince. You won't feel exposed. Your words will come from clarity, not from urgency, from wholeness, not from lack. And that changes everything. Not everyone deserves access to your full story. Staying silent doesn't mean disappearing. It means choosing yourself. Speaking less, but from a more grounded, conscious place. And when you speak from that place, your words carry less weight, but deeper meaning. If this video has resonated with you, if something I've shared has touched a part of you, I need to ask you something. Subscribe to the channel. Not because I need numbers, but because maybe you need these reminders in your daily life. And if you share this video, it may help more people who are going through a similar situation. I would love to read you in the comments and know if this content has helped you. I'm here in this space to remind you that you are not alone on this journey. I'll see you in the next video.